thematic session at World Food India 2025 on Nutraceutical Advancing Evidence-Based Health Solution Beyond Nutrition. In today's fast-changing world, health and wellness are no longer limited to just balanced diet. They are being redefined by nutraceuticals that go beyond basic nutrition to offer targeted evidence-backed health solutions. From preventive care to managing lifestyle disorder, nutraceuticals are unlocking new frontier in science, business and consumer well-being. So to guide us through this dynamic session, we have with us our session moderator, Mr. Achal Chauhan, CEO and Director of BACFO Pharmaceutical India Limited. Please, sir. We are privileged to have with us distinguished panel of speakers who represent science, policy, industry and global perspective. So I would like to invite Mr. Mike Kelleher, General Manager at Blackcurrant from New Zealand. Please, sir. Now I would like to invite Mr. Anil Johri, ex-CEO. Now I would like to invite Dr. Debjani Roy, Executive Director of Shefux, a leader in prominent export and advancing India. Mr. Ketan Bhatia, Vice President, Consumer Product at Tata 1mg. With this eminent panel, we will explore how nutraceuticals can shape the future of healthcare, the importance of science-based validation, the role of policy and regulation, and the growing consumer demand for holistic wellness solutions. On that note, I would like to invite a moderator to please lead the discussion.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Achal Chauhan. I am CEO and Director of BACFO Pharmaceutical. We are one of India's leading exporter and manufacturer of nutraceutical supplements. We have around 150,000 square feet of manufacturing space in NCR, where we are manufacturing tablets, capsules, soft gels, syrups, ointments, all dosages under one, under one roof. And I'm honored to be here and to share the dais with such respectable and knowledgeable people. So to start with, I would like to invite Mr. Mike Gallagher, who is GM of Blackcurrants, New Zealand, to please tell us, we would like to know more from you about leveraging bioactive ingredients for science-backed nutraceuticals. What is your opinion and thoughts on this matter? Please.
Thanks, Achal. Appreciate the the invitation. So kia ora tātou and welcome. I guess most people here would know New Zealand for cricket. I have to say we're pretty good. But look, we're more than just cricket. The New Zealand economy is highly reliant on agriculture. I guess a little bit like India. In some way, though, we're different. Our farmers are not subsidised or looked after at all by the government. Since the mid-80s, it's been like that. This has meant that it's driven a culture of innovation, both on-farm, during processing, and product development, such as nutraceuticals. In terms of my background, I'm an industrial chemist, working for nearly 40 years in both pharmaceuticals and nutraceutical production. My current role with Blackcurrants New Zealand is to manage essentially the whole value chain from on-farm activities through to finished processing, quality testing and marketing of products. The New Zealand Blackcurrant Cooperative is in fact an agricultural cooperative, a little bit like you are quite used to in India. And I have to say that as a grower cooperative, we get great buy-in from our members and we get good support in terms of great raw material and support in terms of taking that product through to market. So I'd be fully supportive of a cooperative model in any agricultural environment. So in terms of leveraging bioactives for the nutraceutical industry, I'd just like to share a few lessons from my nearly 40 years in the industry, and just to give you an idea of the experience that I've had and some of the lessons that I've learned over the time. So we'll start with a few basics. Customer expectations. So I guess never forget that these products are actually discretionary to the consumer. They're not essential. So if a product is designed to have a therapeutic effect, then most consumers will expect that therapeutic effect to kick in from day one. Now, of course, we know that's unrealistic, but basically by the time they finish their first packet of whatever nutraceuticals they're taking, then they will expect to feel some benefit from that. So your chances of consumers coming back and buying more is that they need to actually experience a feeling that it has delivered that health benefit to them. So never lose sight of that. You really only have that one chance. Maybe if it's a preventative product, consumers will keep coming back, but over time, they'll expect to see some health benefit. It'll be the health benefit that you're claiming on your label, and it'll be the health benefit that they've read about, hopefully. The next kind of key basic is product design. You need to match the product format with your target customers. So for example, if you have a sports nutrition product and you are trying to sell it to, let's say, endurance athletes, they'll want convenience. They'll want a product they can carry around with them. They don't want to carry drinks, they don't want to carry frozen fruit or even fresh fruit, so therefore they'll want a product with convenience, for example, capsules or tablets. Alternatively, your older customers, like myself, you're not going to expect them to buy an energy drink. So you need to tailor that product to match your market. Raw materials. Now, I raise raw materials because as a cooperative, it's a really important aspect to us. But it's an aspect that's often overlooked. My growers often remind me that if there's no raw material, there's no market. That raw material, of course, has to be accessible when you need it. And actually, I always find it's best if it comes from an existing food product. That means there's recognition out there in the market of what the food does for you. And you'll also find the regulations are a little bit easier if there's a history of consumption of that product. The other aspects around raw material, for those of you who are into processing, you'll realize the yield of any process has a great effect on cost. Let's say you're talking about an extract that has a 1% yield. Your material cost, of course, will be 100 times when you translate it to the finished product. Sustainability, of course, that's really important these days. It builds on the story. But you also need the product to simply be there when you need it. If you have harvested products once a year, make sure you go into storage and it preserves the activity of the key bioactives as well. The other thing is, don't ignore waste streams. You'll often find in food processing that, let's say, a beverage process may throw the skin out, for example. So you will find bioactives in those skins. You're also solving a problem for those beverage manufacturers because you're taking their waste away and may pay something for it as well. So don't ignore those waste streams. And the other message I always like to take when it comes to raw materials is you should try and include those suppliers somehow in your business structure. Doesn't mean you have to give them shares, but if they're giving you a high quality product, pay them a little extra for it. You'll guarantee their loyalty, and they'll also put a bit of effort into giving you some extra yield if required. In terms of process, look, there's lots of processes. I'm sure you've designed something already for your own products, but I would say one message is don't get hung up on purity. 100% purity might be good if you're trying to deliver a really concentrated capsule, for example, but don't get hung up too much on it. If it retains some of its original characteristics, you might find better consumer acceptance of the product. For example, color, flavor. If they can recognize some of that in the original product, you might find it will be more accepted. You need to know your quality specs. I'm sure you're all over this stuff, but you need to design your process to be robust enough. If you're dealing with a natural raw material, it may not be the same from one day to the next or 1 year to the next. You need to be able to accommodate that natural variation in that product. Of course, it has to be safe for consumption. Pay attention, of course, to micro, heavy metals, solvent residues if you're using a solvent extraction process. And if you're using a plant origin product, you need to know your MRLs, your material residue limits for your markets. Another aspect, this seems quite simple, but get your assay right. Seems a very basic concept because you think, well, okay, you can assay something and it should be repeatable, but you'll find often there's 2 or 3 types of assays to measure purity. Even in New Zealand with the blackcurrant, we have an HPLC assay and we have a spectrophotometric assay. They give us quite different results. You're best to go with the assay that has been used in most of the health studies. That way you've got some guarantee that you're going to be hitting those marks that you need to. Product stability is also really key. You need to understand its stability in your final formulation. Now I come back to our blackcurrant as an example because we have our key bioactives are polyphenols called anthocyanins. These anthocyanins are very stable in a dry powder form, not stable at all in a juice beverage. Now you'll find some marketers still try to apply the health benefits to those beverages, but unless they've done something to preserve that activity, it just won't be there. So be very careful around your product stability. Again, you're looking for consumer confidence. It has to deliver that efficacious dose. And just a little bit of practical advice from years in manufacturing. Collect data. Process data is priceless. You may or may not know it at the time, but when something goes wrong, you've got something to fall back on to examine what's happened. I guess the key, though, to bringing bioactives into the nutraceutical space is the science. I would always go for human studies. Of course, animal studies will lead you to some conclusions, but in terms of selling the idea to the public, human studies are paramount. You should also target as many as possible. The pharmaceutical human studies, of course, are extremely expensive. So even a few targeted small studies will be of some benefit. We were lucky to have some government help. I'm unsure if that's the case in India in terms of getting you into some research. But we quickly moved on to academia. We found universities who were particularly interested in the subject, keen to work on our target market, and of course academics love successful studies. They have a successful study, they'll do another. Their students will then take it away and do more once they move on to other institutions. So in the last 20 years, blackcurrant has actually built up around 120 studies. The other thing always to keep in mind, once again, I'd say a no-brainer, ensure you know your label claim regulations. They differ in different parts of the world. Again, a little unsure of in India, keen to find out. If anyone wants to come and talk to me about that afterwards, maybe we'll hear that from some of the other speakers. But you need the trust of the consumer, you also need the trust of the regulators. So just to finish, I'll just take a few trends from recent gatherings that I've attended, just to give you an idea of what the market is actually out there looking for. I won't go through these in any detail, but as you can see, there's a lot of commonality across them. Not lined up in any particular order, but as you see, cognition, gut health, personalized nutrition, women's health is pretty common across all. So just to close, I would say, remember the fact you've really only got one chance with your customer. They have to feel that efficacy of that product. It has to be a safe product that works for them, that matches label and marketing claims. So I would say that the key message is to do everything you do with integrity. I'll leave you with that point and appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gallagher. What informative points you have given. We can all learn a lot and implement these things in India also. how we can promote, our Indian herbs and extracts in the same way that some of the larger economies outside may be doing. We'll come back to that after all the speeches are done. But now next, I would like to invite Mr. Anil Johri ji. He is the ex-CEO of NABCB. And Johri ji, if you can give your guidance on quality, safety and regulatory compliance in this industry.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for inviting me. And I'm not a Nutra expert, but I stray into several areas from climate change to yoga to Nutra. So let me give my two cents to this topic. Typically, any Indian industry faces multiple challenges in the market. And I'm talking in terms of quality and safety. One is, of course, it's a regulated sector, so you face a regulatory challenge. You have to comply with FSSAI regulations. If you are more ambitious, you want to go out of India, then you face importing country regulations, which typically, unfortunately, are more stringent than regulations we have. Typically, whether it's pharma, it's food, everywhere, almost everywhere. So you need to do something extra to be able to export, because ideal situation would be Indian products as regulated should be accepted worldwide. That's the ideal situation, and that's what we should aim for as industry and as regulators, that as regulated here, accepted everywhere. Why not? I mean, it's not too much of an ambition. I mean, I'm actually tired of personally of this differential standards theory. I remember my childhood days when my mother would, line up in front of a truck which is selling export rejects. I don't know. You people are not as grey as I am, but this used to be the situation. This used to be the situation that export rejects were better than what you got in the domestic market as far as clothes are concerned. That's ridiculous. So we need to get past that, frankly. First thing is to look at our regulations, whether they are internationally aligned or not. I know, of course, that there's huge MSME sector in India. It's a challenging proposition. But I guess if you are entering food sector, if you are entering drugs, you should be prepared that you will be regulated, and you will be regulated to the highest standards. Otherwise, you have no business to be entering that sector. So my approach would be that I would give every industry a time frame that, okay, how much time will it take you to get to this level? 5 years, we'll give you 5 years. And then 5 years either survive or perish. It can't be that endlessly we go on with differential standards. This is just not on. So that's the first thing. Second part is, the challenge of what is called private certifications. There are a whole lot of private certifications, especially in agri-food sector and in textile sector, two sectors which are very, important to India, which is another kind of challenge. There are multiple private. When it's regulation, you can expect one regulation, one regulator. When there are voluntary certifications, there are multiple certifications. FSSC 22000, BRCGS, somebody is asking for HACCP. There are all kinds of certifications. That's another challenge for the industry. It's cost also. Certification is cost. There's one huge issue in the market about cost of certification. Now, unfortunately, we haven't tackled these challenges in a structured fashion. There are ways of tackling these challenges in a structured fashion. We haven't done it. I don't know why, because there are examples, good examples in India itself. Why they are not followed from sector to sector, I have not understood why this happens. For example, when it comes to regulations, I worked in Export Inspection Council, which had its seafood certification recognized by European Commission. It's the, it's designated as the competent authority in India. So you get certified by EIC, and your name gets circulated in European Commission, and you export. Because our domestic regulation is not on par, so you have a dedicated organization called Export Inspection Council, which can certify exports, which can regulate exports. You can't export a dairy product or a seafood product or a meat product or a poultry product or an egg product without approval from Export Inspection Council. And then they go ahead and negotiate with the foreign regulator that you please recognize our certification. That brings down cost for you, cost of compliance as well. So when it comes to regulations, if you have a problem with regulations, sometimes I find industry doesn't even know where to go when it's regulation, problem with regulation. It is the government which can solve. Individually, you can't solve the problem. Collectively, government can. Government can talk to the other government. In many cases, we have set fora, because I was part of India-US Trade Policy Forum. Every year they were meeting, every year they were discussing trade issues. So there are fora available where you can discuss these trade issues. But you need to raise to the right forum, which means either through your line ministry or Export Promotion Council, Chef Excel sitting here, ultimately commerce will talk. So it has to reach commerce. You know, my experience was I heavily worked with commerce for 10 years as CEO and ABCB. And when we asked industry, do you have a problem? Hardly any input used to come. That, are you having any problem? Industry should tell you first thing what is the problem. So that is one part, dealing with regulations. The private standard is a different ball game altogether. In private standards, how do you bring down cost? There's one way. That is, many of these private certifications have a system of equivalence or endorsement. To give you an example, there is something called Global Gap Certification for Good Agricultural Practices worldwide. They have a provision for endorsing your scheme if you have a local scheme. So I did actually led development of what is called INDGAP certification in Quality Council of India in my time, way back in 2014. And then you go ahead and get it endorsed. So once you get it endorsed, you are accepted in that ecosystem as equivalent. We haven't, despite having examples of having done this, say, APIDA's Organic, another example, APIDA's Organic system, which addresses the regulations of foreign countries. It is recognized by EC, it was recognized by USA, we had a setback some time back, but it's recognized by several countries. Same thing with private standards. We have done, for example, INDGAP, which was endorsed by Global Gap, or we have another sector, just giving you an example, forestry. People are looking, if you are exporting furniture, they are looking at whether wood is legally harvested and whether it comes from sustainable forest resource. It could affect Chef Excel also. Some of the forest produce. No, forest produce. I am talking forest produce.
That is not timber.
Yeah. So there is a system of certifying forests for sustainable forest management. There are international schemes, and we have a non-profit body here, with which I am associated now, NCCF. They have forest certification endorsed by PFC, which is the international body, one of the international bodies, one of the two. So what I'm saying is that there are ways of tackling these challenges. Unfortunately, there is not enough awareness. The government doesn't know, the industry doesn't know. A whole lot of, I'll give you an example. 2 years ago, I don't know how many of you read beyond your sector, but 2 years ago, there's this certification body called Control Union. It has 60% of the market for something called Global Organic Textile Standard, which is very important in textile sector. Their accreditation got suspended for 3 months. Now you can imagine if their accreditation was suspended for 3 months, all exports were hit because they could not certify, and without that certification, your product is not accepted in the market. What did the industry do? It ran to Ministry of Textiles. Do something, please do something. Why shouldn't there be a government scheme under which we get certified and then everybody accepts? No, it doesn't work that way. When I learned this, I told the concerned industry body, I said, I'm foolish. A private certification is a private certification. Even if government creates a scheme, it will still have to get endorsement there. You can't, because as a buyer, I am sitting in Europe and I am telling you, please get me GOTS certification. That's all. Now, you will tell me I am certified by Government of India. I say, I don't know what you are certified with. Get me GOTS certification if you want to trade with me. So we need to look at what are the private certifications affected this industry. And if there are, is there a provision to create a local scheme which will be accepted internationally? If there is, then let's go ahead and create that, but that has to be created outside the government. It's not government's business to run voluntary initiatives. Government's business, West understands very clearly. Government is there to regulate. Private, voluntary certifications, voluntary initiatives, outside the government. Please do it. So we need to have this clarity, first among stakeholders, industry, government. I've spent years in governmental institutions and spent years trying to make people understand. But these are the challenges we have, and we need to meet them. As I said, days of differential standards should have been over long ago, frankly. We are talking Viksit Bharat. What are we talking about if we are talking about differential standards today? No. Indian industry cannot meet international standards. We will have our own standards. Why are we talking that? So I think with these few words, I would conclude for the time being and wait for the questions from the panel, from the host or the audience. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jory ji. A lot of experience and wisdom. Very interesting things you have said from your hands-on experience. Just one thing, there's a lot of people at the entry. If you feel you may be more comfortable on this side or over here, please feel free. Next, I would like to invite Dr. Debjani Roy. She is the executive director of Chef Excel for more than 2 decades, and she is, I've recently had the pleasure of getting to know her, and rarely do you ever meet someone who's so dedicated in, and working day in and day out to try and promote the sector, try to solve the difficulties of the brands, of the manufacturers, of the entire chain. The nutraceuticals industry specifically is honored to have her as the executive director of Chef Excel, because she really tries to solve all the on-ground problems and difficulties. So I'd like you, Dr. Roy, to address about market access, innovation, and export potential of nutraceuticals.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everyone, and a very happy Navaratri to all of you. May this festive season bring health, happiness, and prosperity to each one of you. I am delighted to be here today to speak on India's nutraceutical journey, a story rooted in our heritage of botanicals and wellness, and one of that is now shaping the future of global health. In India, nutraceuticals are regulated under the Food Safety and Standard Regulations 2022 enforced by FSSAI. These regulations define nutraceuticals as a category of foods which consists of extracts, isolates, and purified chemical compounds having a physiological benefit and help to maintain health. In the post-COVID era, as immunity and chronic disease prevention take center stage, nutraceuticals have become a part of daily life across the globe. To set the context, let me begin with a short audio-visual presentation on how India can emerge as a global nutraceutical powerhouse. Can I request for the audio-visual presentation, yes?
You know, more than 70% of adults are deficient in at least one essential nutrient. In today's world, food alone isn't always enough. That is where nutraceuticals step in, bridging the gap between food and health. India today stands at the center of a global wellness transformation. With its biodiversity and modern science, India is rapidly becoming a nutraceutical powerhouse. The global market is worth over $590 billion, projected to reach more than $900 billion by 2030. India's market is projected to grow steadily, reaching $46.8 billion by 2030 at a CAGR of around 6.08%. 4 major export corridors are leading this growth: the United States, EU and UK, the Saudi-led GCC, and the ASEAN region. But what exactly are nutraceuticals? They are products from food sources offering health benefits beyond basic nutrition. Classified as health supplements, food for special medical or dietary use, and functional foods, nutraceuticals are available in forms like tablets, capsules, soft gels, gummies, powders, and syrups. Behind them stands India's strong ecosystem: ingredients, APIs, excipients, capsules, and packaging, making India not just a source of raw material, but a trusted global partner for finished products. Nutraceuticals touch every stage of life. They support immunity, nurture the gut, strengthen brain and heart health, and slow aging. They do not replace food, but they elevate it, helping us live fuller and stronger lives. From tradition to technology, nutraceuticals are now an essential part of preventive healthcare, especially in the post-COVID era. With innovations like nano encapsulation and sustained release technologies, they are expanding into new frontiers: mental wellness, metabolic health, and longevity. E-commerce, quick commerce, and the online pharmacy ecosystem are fueling the next wave of growth in India by increasing awareness and improving last mile delivery. This is changing the way the world looks at well-being. But quality matters. The ones that make a difference come from GMP certified facilities with standardized extracts and transparent sourcing. India is now the world's second largest exporter of botanical extracts, over $540 million in 2023, from turmeric and ginger to ashwagandha and moringa. India's biodiversity is nourishing the world. This is more than an industry. It is a movement. By 2030, India is set to be a global leader in nutraceutical innovation. Together with science and nature, we can build a future where health is nurtured every day. Live healthier, live stronger, live longer. India's Nutraceutical Vision 2030, for Bharat and for humanity.
So, ladies and gentlemen, now let me summarize the entire thing. India's nutraceutical industry is expanding quickly, and especially Indian nutraceutical supplement market is booming and is analyzed to grow at a rate of 6% CAGR. Domestic access depends on strict FSSAI compliance, which includes nutraceutical regulation, advertising and claims as per 2018 regulation, packaging and labeling, and ICMR NIN RDA 2020. 4 export corridors which have been shown offered the clearest path: United States, EU and UK, GCC, that is Saudi-led, and Asian, each with distinct claim and regulation labeling rules. Innovation is moving to clinically substantiated combinations and consumer-friendly formats like gummies, functional beverages, and effervescence. Now, for execution, design for compliance, invest in CGMP and testing, build an evidence to claim plan, and launch modular export packs with local partners. What makes India unique is the blend of ancient wisdom and modern science. With our biodiversity, Ayurvedic legacy, and growing R&D ecosystem, we are placed to deliver innovative, evidence-based nutraceuticals to the world. But the key to success is scientific innovation, developing bioactive formulations that truly deliver health benefits. Ingredients like flavonoids, polyphenols, and omega-3s and probiotics are helping address chronic lifestyle conditions from heart health to gut health. By combining traditional knowledge with modern clinical validation, India can lead the way in next generation nutraceuticals that serve both preventive and therapeutic needs. Friends, the opportunity before us is immense. Together, let us take forward India's nutraceutical story to build global competitiveness, to innovate, and to make good health accessible for all. Thank you. And we are the Nodal Export Promotion Council for the nutraceutical under the aegis of Ministry of Commerce and Industry. So any help required or any handholding required, you can get back to us. we are available. I'll share my card after this. And also we participate in trade fairs like Vita Foods Europe and supply side west, and also food ingredients also Europe. And also we have launched recently the Bharat Nutravars. Just 15 days back it got completed from 4th to 6th of September, and it is parallel to IFEX. Here in the Bharat Mandapam itself we had launched the maiden show, and we hope to do it in the next year also. This is all. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Roy. With your dedication and hard work, we are confident that India will indeed become, a center of global hub of nutraceutical manufacturing. Next, I would like to introduce Mr. Ketan Bhatia. He is Vice President of Tata Consumer Products. Tata 1mg, sorry. They've, yes. Sorry, they have just written this incorrect. Yeah. I have had the pleasure of, interacting with him earlier. And, when we hear of the word Tata and Tata 1mg and these big companies, we always think that the senior leadership must be sitting in some corner office and, giving instructions from there. But firsthand, we have seen that Ketanji is tasting all the samples, going to the field, and myself also I've seen him taste samples, give feedback, wait for the new samples, and then give approval. So the Tata 1mg is such large growth, and being the market leader in their field is big contribution by him. So I would like to now invite you and ask you about startup-led innovation in wellness and specifically personalized wellness.
Thank you, Achalji. You're being very, very kind, I must say. I think the principle is a simple one. If I'm not going to have it myself, I don't want to serve it to any consumers in the future. So just want to always be sure that what's going out is absolutely what we would want to consume ourselves over there. Okay, I'm going to talk about a little bit about the role of startups in nutraceuticals and how the personalized wellness journey is now kind of starting to develop in India. I'll talk about this from two aspects. First aspect, why is it that startups are actually looking to even get into this space? And then secondly, what is the difference in many ways that startups are making today? So look, globally, if you look at any country around the world, right? Once the country hits a point where the per capita income is roughly in the $5,000 to $7,000 range, spends on health and wellness, and especially the wellness part of health and wellness, start to grow exponentially and start to grow disproportionately. Now, in India, we're somewhere around $3,000 to $4,000, if I understand correctly, in terms of per capita income. But the truth of India is that we are a very large country, obviously, in terms of number of people, but also a very diverse country. And therefore, you have large parts of India where the per capita income is as high as $11,000 to $12,000 as well. And obviously, the growths that we've seen in that have happened over the last couple of decades or maybe 3 decades or so, right? And therefore, when you look at it in terms of pure numbers, we have a population larger than many countries that is already going through this inflection, that I've kind of previously talked about. But the truth is, while the nutraceuticals market number seems very large, there are many, many pockets and many, many spaces in this that are still very small. You could, if you looked back at the nutraceutical market maybe about a decade or 15 years back, you of course had a lot of Ayurveda, and that's the beauty of India, right? We've carried forward a lot of our traditional learnings. And then, if you looked at sort of the more scientific side of, or the modern side of nutraceuticals, as I would call it, you would probably have found multivitamins, maybe cod liver oil, a few things that or even maybe calcium, etc., that your doctor would have prescribed to you, and your route to actually getting into these would have largely been through your doctor, when if the doctor perceived a need for you to have them. That's not the world in which we are there today, right? So why are startups getting interested? One, the inflection is happening, right? Very, very clearly. We are seeing a growing propensity for people who are above a certain income bracket to look at nutraceuticals not as a curative, but actually as an enhancer of wellness, right? And I'll try to be clear about what I mean, when I say health and wellness. When I say health over here, it is the absence of disease that I'm talking about, right? Literally a measurable physical parameter of some sort that has gone awry with your body. You would typically do a test, figure out, your doctor will tell you that you're facing a disease, or you would have a temperature which is showing up. Something has happened which has taken your physical measurable parameters of your body out of whack, right? And that's the health space. But the wellness space is very different, right? Wellness essentially is about how you feel. You could have every single parameter on every test showing up in the normal range. But the normal range is a very vast range. You could still not wake up in the morning feeling energetic. You could still be having trouble sleeping deeply through the night. A lot of these things that would not show up on any measurable parameter. And that's how I define wellness. And therefore, as the inflection in income, I'll just come back to that, is happening, the interest in wellness is also going up. Couple that with the fact that actually, with our diet and lifestyle that we have today, we are seeing an immense amount of nutritional deficiency. Very surprisingly, for a sunny country like India, our vitamin D deficiency rates are extremely high. In fact, chances are, if most of us got tested, most of us would be deficient in vitamin D. Very high chances of that. Vitamin B12, most of us would be deficient over here. Omega-3s, unless you're a regular fish consumer, chances are you cannot actually get the right amount of omega-3s. It is impossible to get them from any other source, the specific kinds of omega-3s that you need. All right. So there's growing awareness that's happening on wellness, and there are these little pockets that are getting created. Okay. And that's why startups are getting into this space. For any large organization, a little pocket is not interesting, or not interesting enough to go behind it. But for a startup trying to make a meaningful difference, this little pocket also becomes interesting. And therefore, the startup looks to get into it, looks to find what's the best ingredient that I can get, looks to find a supplier, much like Backfo, who can actually make this for me, and then looks to find the route to market to get this to the customer at the end, and educate the customer on why it's the right thing to do, and hopefully then build a business around it that sustains as well. And I think you'll see that in all of these aspects that I've talked about, which ingredients, how do I serve them to the customer, in what form, what's the route to market that I adopt, how do I educate, in all of these startup-led innovation is extremely high and happening. And I think that's the interesting piece, which hopefully as more questions come through, I'll throw a little bit more light on. Thank you.
Ketanji, great insights, on the ground insights by you, especially the point about how, with India's GDP growth, this nutraceuticals and wellness sector is growing. Because people used to say pehle ki jab jeb mein, in small towns people did not have families did not have enough income, people even used to skip their diabetes medicine. But now you see, when you have your basics covered, a big part of the population, they have their basics covered, then they see, with this extra money, how can I better my life, what can I do, can I invest in going to the gym, can I invest in some supplements. So great, very valid point, you have raised among the other points you have also said. So now we'll do a little bit of questions. First I'll ask some questions, and then we'll invite anyone in the audience, if you have any questions, then for our speakers. So Mr. Gallagher, coming back to you. You had given a very interesting speech on how New Zealand and the blackcurrant, you were taking it as an industry and you're trying to promote it globally, and you have been very successful. So, how can international collaboration help India, unlock the full potential of its biodiversity for nutraceutical development? We have a lot of, biodiversity in India. We have a lot of, herbs and extracts. But how can we go to the next stage in promoting, and what learnings can we take, from the blackcurrant promotion in New Zealand?
Thanks, Achal. Well, I guess the one thing we have to keep in mind is that we're not good at everything. You'll find centres of excellence in different parts of the world focusing on largely products that have come from their own diets, or just the economic conditions. So I would say, New Zealand has some strength in converting large-scale agricultural products into useful nutraceuticals or supplements. You wouldn't come to us to perhaps refine oils, for example, or spice, or even enzymes. You'd perhaps go to Northern Europe or Japan, for example. So I think just kind of speed up that innovation, India could look to these centres of excellence. Similarly with your academic research, you'll find for example, sports nutrition research, it's largely happening in the US. So look outside. You don't need to repeat things that have been done before. Go out, welcome it, mine them for information.
Great. And then another point you had said in your speech was about getting the benefits of that to the farmers, of the promotion of these ingredients on a global scale. So how do we ensure that these, or how do we help the farmers?
Well, we're a cooperative, and I know that, as I said in my speech, it seems to be quite a common business in India, particularly in the agricultural field. That really works for us. We find our member growers buy into your efforts. They then put a lot of effort into the purity of their material, the yields they're getting. So any kind of way to include them in the business, as I said, an idea might be to pay them for purity. It may be to give them shares, but I would say if you have a cooperative, it really works.
Yes, we agree. Mr. Johri, we wanted to ask you what issues like inconsistent labeling and unverified health claims, these can often reduce consumer trust. So how can we address these gaps?
Actually, there's no other option but to regulate and regulate effectively. Frankly, if you ask me, consumer trust is low in many products in India, and I personally don't buy organic, because I've seen so much talk about organic fraud. And why would I go and look for something which I'm not confident about? So I think the answer would be more effective regulation. I happen to chair a task force. Debjani dragged me into Nutra on the regulatory framework in India and what can be done better. And one thing which I learned was that we need to upgrade our GMP in nutraceuticals, for example. So, there's no other way. World-class regulations effectively implement. Not only the paper part of it, writing a regulation, world-class is one good part. Second part is effectively regulating, effectively enforcing it. That's all I would say that's the answer to this.
I think, Ketanji, at Tata 1mg also you are sort of leading the trust part of, nutraceuticals. So just maybe if you can guide us on
100%. What Anilji just talked about, the trust gap, and that trust gap in nutraceuticals is very, very high. If I were to hand you a bottle of nutraceuticals from any brand, you would be wary of consuming it. Right? And that is coming from the fact that you don't know, even if you know the ingredient, even if it's as something as simple as a calcium, you would still be wary of consuming it because you don't know with what quality standards it's been produced, right? And especially in the world of nutraceuticals, which are essentially sort of regulated as food in many ways under FSI, and not like pharma. You know, pharma you have a lot more stringency in the standards. So there is a trust gap, right? And therefore, it's really incumbent upon us in the absence of regulations to make sure that we can, as best as possible, fill the trust gap and ensure it doesn't exist. Because one of the factors that will hold this industry back will be the fact that there will be a trust gap. If, as a consumer, I can't believe that the product I'm buying is good for me, I'm not going to consume it. And therefore, we are doing our best, to fill the trust gap. We are going, as Tata 1mg, above and beyond what the regulations demand us to do, making sure every batch of every single nutraceutical product that we consume is independently third-party tested before it goes to market. Tested not just for the ingredient efficacy, but also for all possible safety norms, heavy metals, aflatoxins, pesticides, to be ensure that it's under safe limits for all of them. So, we are taking those steps to move forward. And I think in growing in the industry also, we are seeing more and more players come up and try to take those steps to ensure that as an industry, overall, we are serving what is best for consumers.
I can second, as one of their manufacturers, I can second what he said, because they double test, triple test each and every lot till it's not third party verified. It does not leave the facility. It's not sold to a consumer, even if it is out of stock. So really a lot to learn. But coming back to that, Jhoriji, what lessons can India take from high trust societies and global bodies like FDA and EFSA to align better with the international standards and to increase this trust level in the industry?
I think I already, in opening remarks, I mentioned the fact that our regulations are not globally compatible. That's the first problem that I face every sector I look at. I don't know why we create these systems. I mean, right now, if you know, we are creating a carbon trading scheme, and I have concerns about that carbon trading scheme, that it's not following international norms. Why we do that, I have no idea. But first thing is to create globally compatible regulations. That's the first part. Whatever it takes. I mean, as I said, give the industry some time. Tell them that this is the time frame in which you have to upgrade. I mean, we are seeing the resistance to Schedule M in revised Schedule M in pharmaceutical industry. I mean, how long are you going to say that we can't implement WHO GMP? There has to be a limit for that. I mean, then we say we are pharmacy of the world. So that's the first part. But the second part is equally important. Having paper regulation globally compatible is one part of it. Second part always is the effectiveness of enforcing that regulation. Third is, I guess, regulations will set the bar. Even if you are international standards, there is always, you can do something better. So globally, excellence is promoted by voluntary action. Regulations can also, you pitch your standards, regulations to global standards, and you are promoting excellence. But there's no end to excellence. You can still do better, like I think Ketan said, that they go beyond. A lot of people talk about going beyond compliance, where the voluntary action comes in. And I think there is a need to incentivize voluntary action, which doesn't happen normally. I don't know how many of you remember, there is one sentence in the licensing regulations of Food Authority 2011 regulations, that in case you are certified to a national, international standard, you will get without inspection, renewal of your license without inspection. There's one sentence there. Did anybody notice that? All of you are from food industry, I guess. I did. But we never operated that. There is a codex, today there is a codex document which talks about how regulators can take cognizance of third-party quality assurance systems, the private standards. If I am certified to, say, FSSC 22000 or BRCGS or something like that, should I expect that the regulator would be kinder to me or more liberal, or he may think that I am less risk because I am already doing something extra beyond the regulations? I think these kind of things need to come into India. To promote excellence, incentivize voluntary action. Industry would go for it if there is incentive for it to One, of course, incentive is customer demand, no doubt about that. But even regulators can incentivize. If FSI was to incorporate that codex document into its regulations and offer some kind of incentive that if you do something more beyond the regulations, my oversight will be less or something like that, then also it will add to, adding to the trust part of it.
Great. Dr. Roy, how can trade promotion councils and trade promotion policies and help position India as a global hub for nutraceutical innovation?
In this regard, I would like to say that we had a task force created under the chairmanship of the principal scientific advisor, and lot of recommendations based on which lot of recommendations have been given to the government, submitted to the government of India, and because of which we are the designated EPC for the nutraceuticals, and also we are trying to get the PLI scheme, the productive linked incentive scheme, to promote this sector. And also we have also tried, you are all may be familiar with, there is the biodiversity access benefit sharing. So, and that is a mandatory thing which the industry has to pay based on the profit, on the access benefit sharing on the profit. So in order to balance that, we have introduced the RODTP scheme, which is the remission of duties and taxes, where the access benefit sharing, which 0.5 or 1%, which the industry will pay, since it is a statutory thing, it will also be reimbursed under RODTP scheme. Then we are trying for the HS codes, because if you see, the extracts do not have respective codes. Most of them are going under others, 1302, 1919. And the nutraceutical products, well, the finished products are going under 2106, 9099. So all these things, because unless there are specific code, it becomes difficult for the government also to give a benefit when it as RODT, because what is going under others nobody knows. So instead to help the industry, some other industry is taking the benefit. So that also we are following up with the OSD of the tariff unit of CBIC for respective. We have given at least 18 codes we have submitted for the botanicals, because that is a big chunk which is being exported at present. And also for the nutraceuticals, for the finished products also a specific code, so that no other products goes under, because now 2106 is food not elsewhere specified. So anything under that chapter goes under this others. So that is also very, so these are the things which we, and apart from this there is the market access initiative scheme, where which is under the Department of Commerce, where the statutory compliances are reimbursed to the exporters who are having exports less than 100 crores to the tune of 50% yearly up to 2 crores. So that is also in place. So these are the promotional things for the sector which the industry can avail.
Yeah, Dr. Roy, we agree, especially but the part about the MAI earlier, it was active, and we know you're trying very hard to get it back. That really helps, small exporters. If you can get, the NSF licensing fee, half of it back, the UL licensing fee, or your ISO, FSSC certifications, ka kuch part, some part you are able to get back. If you are, participating in a foreign exhibition, if you can get some tickets reimbursed, if you can get some part of your booth reimbursed, it really helps, and it kind of motivates the smaller exporters to attend and exhibit their products and find new buyers for their innovations. So Ketanji, we wanted to get some more knowledge from you on how are Indian startups changing the way consumers access nutraceuticals. It doesn't need to be startups, it can be established companies also, but how are companies changing the way consumers access nutraceuticals, especially through digital and e-commerce and online platforms?
Yeah, look, I think there are two parts to this that are important. One is where is availability happening for consumers, and second part is where is education happening from consumers. And again, if I take you back 10 to 15 years, your path to nutraceuticals 10 to 15 years back was through your doctor, right? And your doctor would recommend something to you, and then you would possibly go out to the nearby pharmacy, either at the hospital or near your home, and you would ask for that particular product. The path to nutraceuticals today is very, very different. All right, I would say the emerging path is very, very different. Today, sitting in the comfort of your home, without a doctor telling you, you can get your hands on whatever nutraceutical you want now in 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whichever is the speed of delivery of your favorite quick commerce platform. And that's a shift that obviously Startup India in many ways has created, beyond anything that already existed previously. If you were to go, for example, onto an Amazon, and I'm pretty certain that most of us would be shopping from Amazon, and you were to look at any nutraceutical category on Amazon today, chances are you would find a startup brand or a set of startup brands actually leading those categories, right? Now, how has that shift come about? These brands were relatively unknown to us a few years back. 5 years back, 8 years back, 10 years back, many of these brands didn't even exist. So how is it that they are, on these platforms leading today? And that comes down to the second part of how the path to nutraceuticals has shifted today. If you are digitally active, if you're on any social media platform, chances are you've been served by either some content or some advertising that tells you why a nutraceutical might be relevant for you. Right? I'm pretty sure everybody here has seen a barrage of information in the last couple of years on protein. Right? You can't miss it. It's impossible to miss if you're digitally active right now. And all of that is getting created by the Startup India that is actually leading the protein market, right? So this part of education that's happening on digital platforms and not through doctors anymore, and the part about access, that's also happening now on digital platforms and not through your neighborhood pharmacy anymore, is the shift that's happening in the market, and that Startup India is kind of leading today.
Thank you. So, how much time do we have then? Accordingly, we can, because I have a lot of questions, but then if we are short of time, then we'll ask some people from the crowd to.
Sir, if we can conclude in next 10 minutes,
Okay,
we have a session at 3:30 p.m.
Let people, yeah, exactly. So if anyone has questions, please, or you, please.
Happy evening, Suresh Bafna. I'm CEO of Ahara, a taste of culture, a path to Arugya. I'm from Bangalore. We are into cryogenic spices currently. Now we are developing recipes into nutraceuticals, means where a normal food which added with herbs and botanicals. So that work is going on currently with us. So we need mentorship, guidance, support from the panelists in this regard.
Ayurved Ahar, I think recently they have come up, FSSA has come up with a portal where you have to register, right? Recently.
Okay.
I can share with you the details. If you connect with me, I'll share with you the details where the specifications of the foods are given. And you need a FSSI license for it.
We have got FSSI.
You have got it.
Yes.
So then, I don't think anything more you require.
No, it is a new subject for us completely.
It is a new subject, but it is also guided by FSSI only.
Yeah, I think the information of the Ayurvedic Ahar, which is the Ayurvedic foods, is on the FSSI portal. I think it's fairly new, so there's a lot
or
of.
something like that.
They have come up with a new regulation on this Ahar Ayurvedic food. So
Recently
I think
it has come.
it would be online on the FSSAI website.
Okay.
Otherwise, I don't think because it's fairly new. Any other questions, please?
Good afternoon, panelists. So I'm representing IGMPI. I'm an assistant professor there. So I had a question related that despite there is a growing awareness about this nutraceuticals a lot, and we do proper testings and assays, spectrophotometry, anti-nutrients testings, everything. But can we see in future that there will be clinical trials coming up? For probiotics, they are. I have done my research in vivo studies. That's why, because I wanted to check the toxicity of that. But can we see if any clinical trials will be coming up in this parameter like nutraceuticals for?
Clinical trials are being done. I think ICMR is doing the clinical trials for these botanicals.
Botanicals part.
ICMR is doing, but I think that
but
will
to
has
come into
to
the
be
market, there
that
is
has
not
to
that a
be
proper guidelines.
sponsored by the industry.
Industries
But
itself.
government, I don't think, is supporting for clinical trials.
For there is the for the regulatory markets, we do not require the clinical trials in a nutraceuticals parameter. My questions was related to that only, that in future will it be coming, or it would be focused on the taking the in vitro testing and all the assays testing only, the purity assays,
think,
which sir also discussed about.
I don't think so, because it is a food as a prevention, not for therapeutic use.
Yes.
So I don't think it will. But definitely toxicity study, which you mentioned, all those things will matter.
So just last
Because
quick
these
question,
days items
please,
are
'cause,
carcinogenic
they're
also
asking us
sometimes.
to wrap up. There's
So good
another
afternoon,
session.
all of you. I also am representing Institute of Good Manufacturing Practices only, IGMP, Professor Jyotsna this side. So as we have come across so many information about nutraceuticals, and we are providing a program. We are providing a program which is on nutraceuticals only. So being an education provider, like how can we make people rely on these products? Because still now, as Ketan said already mentioned, people generally formatize this as a medicine, as a like medicinal supplement, not a functional food. Because people will prefer having turmeric rather than curcumin. So like what can we do as an education provider, and how can we make people aware about this?
Yeah, and thank you. I think we need a lot more, cross-industry partnership to happen over here. Not just industry, cross-industry, academia involved. Clinical studies, what was just talked about. Honestly, as a brand, I would love to do clinical studies on everything.
Right.
I would love to. But you know what? I don't have that kind of money. It's really expensive to do a clinical study. So, either I find a source of very patient capital that's willing to sit around, or I spend my money on trying to make the best product at the best quality, serve it to my customer at the best possible prices, and give them the right information to be able to get that product, or I end up doing a clinical study, and that it's a really hard choice, when you don't have patient capital. So I think the answer lies in being able to form partnerships where the strengths of sort of 1 + 1 come together to not make 2 but make 5, 10, 11, whatever it is that can be brought together. And I think that's where the impact is going to happen.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, because we're out of time and the four speakers are very knowledgeable.
I want to add 2 points here. The one's about the clinical trials. I was a part of a group in IIT Delhi, and I was a part in GCR project in Newcastle University. The clinical trials in medicine is very difficult. When we talk about the human trials, it's going to be the highly expensive, which is not acceptable in human. And if we talk about animal trials, that's going to be the 2 to also expensive. But the major part is here, which you talk about the per capita income and all. But actually, I have found out the industries which are in India, especially, the expenditure on R&D is going to be very, very small. I see the profit which the companies are making. About 10.7% is the profit which the people are making. And out of that, only 3%, not a 3% from the profit, there's a 3% which are spending on their R&D. But outside economies are spent. That's around 50% of that. So there's a lacuna in the mind, there's a deficiency, but bottleneck situation where the industries needs to come up that yes, the innovation, the R&D which is going to be today is going to be the higher yield, higher benefit for the future. That strategy is going to be the difference. And second thing, what we need to promote as support in the form of certification, and which is going to be the higher cost, and also this R&D support, which may be having one of the driving force for future also.
Yes, we fully agree with you. The 4 speakers are very knowledgeable. If you have any questions, you can ask them right after this event outside. There's another session at 3:30. So they've asked us to conclude this. Acha, okay, just one quick.
Few sentences to what he said. As the title is saying that advancing the evidence-based health solution beyond the nutrition. So I am working for cancer patients who cannot eat the regular food and they need to take food through rice tube, and the people who are going through radiation and chemotherapy. So far we have served like approximately 1 lakh servings to different patients. They are recovering and we are also able to stop their reoccurrence of cancer. But so far we have been known as a food company and a wellness startup, not able to put us in a way that, okay, we are doing some payloads on patients are getting recovered. We are not just supplying the calories and proteins, but we are actually stopping the reoccurrence. And that is what we call the evidence. As Sir says that beyond the regulation, we should do some voluntary actions. And those startups, those companies should get some credits to go ahead. Let's say there is a Tata Memorial Hospital and so many patients are not able to eat. So can such startups get the pilot opportunity to serve those patients? As Sir said, the cross collaborations, like someone has the patient capital, someone has the product.
Yes.
So I feel like there is a need to have a platform where startups and industries can connect, they can validate the product and they can do a lot more.
Yes, so great point. And geriatric industry is increasing a lot. A lot of global players and startups, global players like Fresenius Kabi have come up with full ranges for this. Indian players and global players are also, putting new lines. But we'll take this discussion, outside. Maybe you can ask the speakers after the session outside, I think. Yes, we agree.
Follow the FASAI,
Yeah.
Ayurveda as a Ahara, or
Yeah.
the nutraceutical
Yeah.
path, or the pharmacology path, and the customer will also get confused.
No,
ये
of
क्या
course.
है, खाना है, दवाई है या सप्लीमेंट है.
Yeah.
तो ये तीनों के बीच में एक ब्रिज बनाना बहुत जरूरी है, so
Yeah.
that all the company can emerge.
Yes,
Now things will be clear. Why I tell you, because now initially because of the GST 18%, many food supplements, were put as Ayush products, so that they could have been 5% benefit. Now that part has been tackled, so that has been brought down to 5%. So now these things will be labeled as food supplements. I hope
Yes.
because because that was what you said is absolutely correct. There was a confusion on it. Now things will normalize.
Yeah. So would you like to conclude and?
So, thank you so much to our moderator and our distinguished panelist. So, may I request Mr. Achal Chauhan to felicitate Mr. Mike Kelleher.
What do I have to do?
You have to just.
Acha, okay.
Yeah. Mr. Anil Johri. Mrs. Devjani Roy. Yeah. Ketan Bhatia. Mr. Ketan Bhatia. Now may I request
1, 2, 4.
yeah. कोई बात नहीं उसके बाद करते हैं Now may I request Mr. Prateek to felicitate our moderator Mr. Achal Chauhan. Thank you so much.